Recently, I did a 360mm AIO Shootout on the overclock.net YouTube channel. If you want to check that out, I will have that linked below. In that shootout, I pitted 7 AIOs against each other. So does bequiet's Pure Loop 360 AIO have what it takes to take on the champion? Fractal's Celsius Plus S36 Dynamic? Let's find out. Hey good peeps, I'm Ryan with Veteran Hardware, where I take a look at the latest computer hardware from a veteran's perspective. Today we take a look at another bequiet product, the Pure Loop 360 all-in-one CPU cooler. Now bequiet has been in the CPU cooler business for a while now. The same design has mostly been present, a CPU pump combo mostly dominated by Asetek's designs. bequiet is trying something new here with its new Pure Loop line, with a new inline pump which is doubly decoupled for quieter operation and minimal vibration. So last time I tested on Intel's Z370 platform with a 8700K at 5 GHz. But I have been using the Pure Loop 360 in my daily driver workstation, which has a AMD Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core, 24-thread CPU with 32 GB of DDR4 3000 RAM. A new case is present this time around as well, the Silent Base 802 from bequiet, of course with that mesh front panel installed. I also have orientated the Pure Loop 360 in the roof of the 802 as opposed to the front panel installation in the shootout. So kicking things off, I figured why not start off with what everyone's wondering about. How well does the Pure Loop 360 cool? Well, spoiler, quite well. For consistency, I locked the Ryzen 9 3900X CPU at 4.3 GHz with the same 1.344 V-core that I used in the shootout testing. While at idle, the 3900X hovered around 32C, while the 3 included high-speed 120mm Pure Wings 2 fans, which ran at around 1100 RPM. Now, to crank things up at 100% load via AIO 64 Extreme, for around 20 minutes, temps rose to the mid-80s with a peak of over 90C, all with the fans cranked up to their maximum 2000 RPM. Now, temps only tell a little bit of the story. The other parts of the story, which include aesthetics, construction, design, installation, and lastly, noise. So bequiet seems to have kept this all-in-one cooler a bit subdued with its all-black fans, black radiator, black tubing, and then a splash of silver on the block top, as well as a very tasteful white LED ring. bequiet likes to put function over form, and this is really apparent. Design-wise, bequiet has implemented something that the rest of the industry seems to have dismissed: fluid loss over time. Yep, an all-in-one CPU cooler that you can keep topped off when the time comes via a fill port on the opposite end of the radiator. bequiet even goes as far as including a 100ml bottle of coolant for when the time arises. Construction of the Pure Loop 360 is pretty good. While only having plastic on the removable silver block plate, the radiator supports 320mm fans, which bequiet includes 3 of their Pure Wings 2 high-speed PWM fans, which kick out over 50 CFM each. The tubing has a nice braiding, but the story to tell here is the doubly decoupled inline pump. For me, this was the first to have the pump placement in the line of the tubing. I've seen pumps integrated into radiators as well as CPU blocks, but never in line of tubing. The only thing I would have liked to see is a cleaner design in terms of cabling. Having that cable coming off the pump is pretty unsightly. Plus all the cabling of the 320mm fans. Thank God there just isn't any RGB in the Pure Loop 360. Installation of the Pure Loop 360 went pretty smooth. Pretty much the norm with any bequiet CPU cooler anyway. I guess if I had to complain is that the mounting system bequiet is using pretty much mimics their air cooling line. And for tooling purposes, I get it. Make use of what you have already. But having the option of using the stock AM4 bracket would have kept costs down, especially since there was only 2 screw-down points on the block top as it is. So earlier I touched on thermals, but noise is the other part of that equation. bequiet, as the company name suggests, being quiet is their first priority. The 3 included Pure Wings 2 fans do just that, sitting comfortably at 37 dB at idle and at full speed 48 dB, which if placed in the shootout would have done better than most in terms of noise levels. So would I recommend the Pure Loop 360 to someone looking for a good CPU AIO? I absolutely would. The Pure Loop 360 is priced on the lower end of the spectrum, where value is king. In my testing, the Pure Loop 360 did better than a lot of the other offerings that had more expensive RGB or ARGB to implement. So at the end of the day, an all-in-one CPU water cooler is supposed to do one thing well, and that's prevent your CPU from overheating and throttling down to prevent it from killing itself. So when did RGB become more important than cooling? Okay guys, thanks for sticking with me this long. Keep your eyes peeled for the next AIO from Be Quiet, the silent loop. Also, I would really appreciate it if you could be so kind as to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Again, my thanks. I will see you in the next one.